When we think about empires, we tend to imagine capitals, Constantinople, Ctesiphon, Rome, places where emperors ruled and monuments proclaimed authority. Yet empires are not defined only by their centers. They are equally shaped by their margins. The frontier zones where imperial control was weakest, identities were most fluid, and change occurred most rapidly. In late antiquity, the margins of empire were not empty spaces or backwaters. They were dynamic regions of interaction where political authority was negotiated rather than imposed, and where religious and cultural exchange flourished. Frontier zones and imperial limits. Both the Byzantine Empire and the Sasanian Empire governed vast territories, but neither exercised uniform control across their domains. At the edges, along deserts, mountains, and steppe lands, imperial authority faded into influence rather than rule. These frontier regions included the Caucasus, Mesopotamian borderlands, Arabian deserts, and parts of North and East Africa. Here, imperial armies were costly to maintain, tax collection was uneven, and local leaders wielded significant autonomy. Rather than direct administration, empires often relied on client rulers, tribal confederations, and negotiated alliances to secure their borders. Tribal confederations and local power. In many marginal regions, political power rested with tribal or clan-based societies. These groups were not primitive remnants of an earlier age. They were highly adaptive political actors who understood how to leverage imperial rivalries to their advantage. Tribal leaders served as intermediaries between imperial centers and local populations. In exchange for military service or border security, they received subsidies, titles, or religious recognition. Loyalty was personal and conditional, not institutional. This form of governance created zones of flexibility. Allegiances could shift, borders could blur. Authority was situational rather than absolute. Religious diversity at the margins. The margins of empire were also zones of remarkable religious pluralism. Christianity, Judaism, Zoroastrianism, and local religious traditions coexisted and competed in these spaces. Missionaries traveled alongside merchants. Religious communities crossed political boundaries more easily than armies. Imperial centers often sought religious uniformity, but borderlands resisted it. Distance from capitals allowed alternative interpretations, syncretic practices, and minority traditions to survive. In many cases, religious identity became a way for local groups to assert independence from imperial control. Ironically, these marginal regions became laboratories of religious innovation, shaping belief systems that would later transform the entire Afro-Eurasian world. Margins as engines of change. Far from being static or insignificant, the margins of empire were often where the most profound historical changes originated. New political forms emerged where old structures failed. New religious movements gained traction where imperial authority was weakest. Arabia is the clearest example. Long positioned between Byzantine and Persian spheres, its societies were shaped by trade, tribal autonomy, and exposure to multiple religious traditions. The region's marginal status allowed it to develop independently of imperial systems, setting the stage for dramatic transformation in the 7th century. History repeatedly shows that empires fall apart at the edges before they collapse at the center. Rethinking power and civilization. Section 10.4 challenges us to rethink what power looks like in late antiquity. Stability did not always come from strong bureaucracies or standing armies. In many regions, it emerged through relationships, religious authority, and negotiated order. The margins of empire reveal a world where governance was personal, faith-based, and flexible. These regions were not failures of imperial control. They were adaptations to geographic, cultural, and economic realities.